I used to believe that a broken heart was something people exaggerated for dramatic effect, something reserved for novels, movies, or late-night songs that played in empty bars. But the day my life split in half, I realized it was real. It was physical. It lived inside your chest like a creature tearing at the walls. My name is Adrian Hale, and until 6 months ago, I lived what looked like an average, steady life in Ridgewater, Colorado. I had a good job managing logistics for a regional warehouse chain. I had 2 kids, Rowan, my quiet and thoughtful 8-year-old boy, and Emery, my 6-year-old spark of sunlight. I also had a wife, or at least I believed I did. Her name was Marissa, and I had loved her with the kind of certainty you don't question. But certainty is fragile. It shatters fast. Everything fell apart in a single week, a single test, a single court hearing, a single sentence from a judge that carved a wound into me that may never heal. People talk about betrayal as if it's just a moment, a choice, a mistake. But betrayal is a series of small decisions someone makes behind your back, each one chipping away at the world you didn't know was already collapsing. When I first discovered that Emery wasn't biologically mine, I felt something inside me freeze, not break, freeze, a terrifying stillness, the kind of quiet that happens before a storm. And the storm came fast. The DNA test had been a requirement in court after Marissa made a series of accusations against me. Accusations that would later be disproven. But the test told a truth I wasn't prepared for. "Mr. Hale," the judge said, looking down at the documents, "the test confirms that you are not the biological father of Emery Hale. As such, the court will remove your name from her birth certificate." There are moments in life when time slows. People say that in dramatic scenes of danger or fear, but it's true in heartbreak too. I watched the judge's lips move, watched Marissa keep her head down, watched Emery's legs swing in the chair beside her mother, unaware of the meaning of the words ripping through my soul. Not her father. Not legally, not biologically, not anything that mattered in the eyes of the system. But for 6 years I had been the one to braid Emery's hair, to tie her shoes, to hold her when she woke from nightmares. I had been the one who taught her how to draw stars, how to whistle, how to say sorry when she hurt someone accidentally. I was the one she ran to when she scraped her knee. How does a piece of paper tell me that none of that counts? The judge might as well have said, "You loved the wrong child for 6 years." Marissa's face was unreadable. She looked tired, worn down, her once bright eyes shadowed by secrets she was too cowardly to confess. The affair that created Emery had been buried deep, covered with lies, hidden behind years of practiced smiles and the illusion of a marriage. I felt rage then, the kind that burns slow and steady, not explosive, the kind that settles deep in your bones. But beneath that rage was something far worse. Fear. Fear of losing Emery. Fear of losing the connection I had built. Fear that she would look at me one day and see a stranger. Some people think the worst part of betrayal is the act itself. It's not. It's the way it forces you to question every memory, every moment of joy, every laugh, every bedtime story. Was it all a lie? Or was it real for me, even if it wasn't for her mother? The weeks after the court ruling were a blur. I avoided mirrors because I didn't want to see the man I had become. A man hollowed out by something he didn't ask for. I tried to stay focused on Rowan, who sensed everything but asked nothing. And Emery, God, looking at her hurt the most. Not because she wasn't mine, but because she was. All the while, Marissa acted like she was the victim. "You don't understand, Adrian," she said one evening when we met outside the courthouse. "Emery needs stability. She needs her father, her real father. I know this is painful, but you have to accept it." Her real father. The phrase nearly made me laugh. Some faceless man who vanished years ago. A man who didn't care enough to stay. "You mean the man who abandoned her before she was born?" I asked coldly. "That's who you think should be in her life?" Marissa flinched. She didn't answer. She never did. The more she avoided responsibility, the clearer it became. She never cared about the truth, not until it threatened her comfort. But I couldn't give up Emery. Not emotionally, not morally. The system didn't care about love. But I did. And I wasn't going to abandon a child who had never abandoned me. That was when the idea of adoption first entered my mind. A thought I immediately pushed away. It felt impossible, ridiculous even. Why would a court allow me to adopt a child I technically had no legal claim to anymore? Why would they trust the man they'd just erased from her birth certificate? But the idea stayed with me, haunting my nights, lingering in the quiet moments when I watched Emery draw at the kitchen table or chase Rowan in the backyard. I could either let betrayal define our future, or I could rewrite it. One evening, Rowan and Emery were in my living room after dinner, drawing on scrap paper while I cleaned up. Emery had drawn something, a stick figure family, holding hands with bright yellow sun rays overhead. "Is that us?" I asked gently. She nodded, grinning. "Daddy, that's you, see? I made your hair bigger, so you look like a superhero." My throat closed. Not biologically mine, not legally mine, but in her heart, absolutely, undeniably mine. That was the moment I knew. Adoption wasn't impossible. It was necessary. For her. For Rowan. For me. No matter the betrayal, no matter the pain, no matter the truth of biology, love, real love, could rewrite everything. And I would fight for that love, even if it meant going to war with the woman who destroyed our family. I never imagined I would voluntarily step back into a courthouse after the day they stripped me of my title as Emery's father. But 2 months later, I found myself walking through those heavy glass doors again, not as a man defeated, but as a man preparing for the first real battle of his life. Adoption. The word felt too fragile for how monumental it truly was. It carried hope, yes, but also risk, doubt, and the crushing weight of uncertainty. I knew the odds weren't in my favor. Men in my situation didn't just adopt children whose biological mothers were fighting them at every turn. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that if I didn't try, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Before I could file anything, I needed the one thing I feared I would never get again: Marissa's consent. Without it, the courts wouldn't even glance at my application. And judging by her last few months of behavior, she would rather set herself on fire than give me something that helped me. But life has a strange sense of timing. One quiet Tuesday evening, I drove to Marissa's apartment to drop off Rowan and Emery after their after-school club. I didn't plan to talk to her. I didn't even want to look at her. The resentment between us had turned into something suffocating, and every conversation felt like walking barefoot on glass. But when I knocked, she didn't answer. The kids waited behind me as I tried again. No response. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. My stomach tightened. It wasn't like her to disappear, not with the kids' schedule so strict. not when she tried so desperately to appear put together in front of the judge. 5 minutes later, her neighbor, an older woman who always smelled like lavender soap, came out of her apartment. "She left in a hurry this morning," she said. "Suitcase and all. Didn't say when she'd be back." My pulse spiked. She left? Without telling me? Without leaving a message for the kids? Rowan frowned, his brows knitting. "Dad, is Mom okay?" I had no idea, but I couldn't say that. "I'm sure she is," I told him softly. "We'll text her again later." But she didn't text back. Not that night. Not the next day. Not even the day after that. Something about the silence felt off, wrong in a way that tightened my chest. Marissa was many things. Reckless, selfish, impulsive. But she wasn't the kind who disappeared without making sure someone knew where she was. On the 4th day of no contact, I received a call from an unknown Colorado number. I almost ignored it until instinct told me to pick up. "Mr. Hale," a calm female voice asked. "This is Detective Rena Ortiz with the Ridgewater Police Department. Are you familiar with a woman named Marissa Hale?" My blood went cold. "Yes," I said slowly. "She's my ex-wife. Is something wrong?" There was a pause. Then the detective exhaled. "We'd like you to come down to the station. There's been an incident." The drive to the station felt endless. The kids were at school, fortunately. They didn't need to see me unravel. Detective Ortiz met me in a small interview room, a file tucked under her arm. "Mr. Hale," she began, "your ex-wife was involved in a situation at the Denver airport. She attempted to board a flight to Costa Rica using a passport that wasn't hers." I stared at her. "What?" "She was detained for fraudulent documents," the detective continued. "When questioned, she claimed she was leaving the country to start fresh. She also stated she had full custody of your children, which, as you know, is not the case. Not the case at all. She had been planning to run, to disappear, with the kids." My hands shook, my voice cracked. Where is she now?" "Being processed," the detective replied. "But there's something else." She slid a document toward me, a printed airline itinerary. 2 tickets, 1 adult, 1 child, not children, just Emery. A tidal wave of anger and panic slammed into me. Rowan wasn't even included. She had chosen Emery, to take her away not just from me, but from her brother, from school, from everything. "Mr. Hale," the detective said gently, "do you understand the severity of this? This isn't just fraud. This is attempted parental abduction." I shut my eyes. My nails dug into my palms. Abduction. The word echoed through my bones. "Because of this," she continued, "a temporary protective order is being recommended. Your ex-wife will not be allowed near the children until a full hearing is held." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The shock, the fury, the relief, because for the first time I had a chance, a real chance to protect Emery, to protect Rowan, to keep our lives from spiraling into something irreversible. The detective wasn't done. "There's another matter," she said. "Child Services will want to evaluate whether it's in Emery's best interest to remain in your care during her mother's legal proceedings." My heart pounded. This was it. The opening I thought I would never get. "Mr. Hale," she said, meeting my eyes with quiet seriousness, "if you have ever considered seeking legal guardianship or adoption, this is the moment to do it." My breath caught, because I had considered it. Every night. Every morning. Every time Emery reached for my hand or called me Daddy without hesitation. But now it wasn't just a desperate wish. It was possible. "Detective," I said hoarsely, I'm ready. Whatever paperwork I need to file, whatever steps I need to take, I'm ready. And for the first time since the day the judge took my fatherhood away, I felt something return to me. Something small but powerful. Hope. Sharp. Bright. Dangerous. The kind of hope that could change everything, or burn me alive in the process. The day Child Services came to evaluate my home, I felt like I was standing trial all over again. Every room I walked into, every toy out of place, every drawing taped crookedly to the refrigerator, felt like evidence. Evidence that I was either a stable, loving father, or a man, one mistake away from losing everything. The evaluator, Ms. Rayburn, arrived precisely at 9 in the morning. She was polite and composed, but her eyes were sharp, the kind that noticed everything without needing to look twice. She walked through the living room, nodding at the framed school pictures, the tidy shelves, the stack of children's books near the couch. "Rowan and Emery seem close," she observed. "They are," I said. "He reads her bedtime stories every night. She refuses to sleep unless he's on the floor beside her." That earned a faint smile. Siblings who bond that deeply often provide stability for one another, especially during disruptive times. Disruptive times, a soft phrase for the chaos Marissa had dragged us into. When the evaluator went upstairs, Emery followed her like a shadow, her little blue socks sliding on the hardwood. She was carrying her stuffed fox, the one she never slept without. I didn't prompt her. I didn't dare interfere. But Emery began talking on her own, pointing at her room, her bookshelf, the drawings on the wall. "That's Daddy," she said, pointing at a crayon drawing of a tall stick figure holding her hand. "And that's me. He takes me to school every day." I felt my throat tighten. I didn't know she noticed that. I thought she just liked the routine. "And this one?" She showed another drawing, messy and bright. "That's us at the lake. Daddy said I can learn to swim when the water gets warm." Ms. Rayburn looked at me. "Is that true?" "Yes," I said quietly. "We go every summer." When Emery wasn't looking, the evaluator leaned toward me. "Children her age don't fabricate emotional safety. They speak from what they experience." That was the first moment I thought. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't fighting a losing battle. But the evaluation wasn't the only storm gathering. Marissa's hearing had been scheduled. Her lawyer tried to push for supervised visits, claiming the attempted flight was a misunderstanding, but the judge wasn't buying it. When the evidence was presented, the passport, the one-way tickets, the recordings of her frantic airport statements, her chances evaporated. I watched her from across the courtroom. She wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't look at the kids. She stared at her hands, trembling, as if the entire world had turned on her without warning. Maybe in her mind it had, but that didn't erase what she'd almost done. After the hearing, the judge ordered immediate restrictions and temporarily transferred full custody to me. I should have felt victorious, but all I felt was exhausted. This wasn't the kind of win you celebrated. This was survival. When I got home that afternoon, Rowan sensed something had shifted. He wasn't a little boy anymore. He understood more than I wanted him to. "Is Mom going to come back?" he asked, his voice small, cautious. "Yes," I said, kneeling in front of him. "Eventually. But for now, she needs help, and she won't see you or Emery until she does." He swallowed. Did she really try to leave without us?" I hesitated. "She made a mistake, a very big one, but none of it is your fault." He nodded and leaned into me, his shoulders shaking. I held him until he stopped crying, wishing I could shield him from every broken piece of our past. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat alone in the living room, surrounded by silence. A silence so deep, it echoed. That's when my phone buzzed. An email notification from my attorney. Draft adoption petition. Review attached. My hands trembled as I opened the document. Seeing it in writing, petition to adopt, Emery Hale, sent a surge of fear and hope through me so intense it hurt. Was I ready for this? Could I survive another courtroom loss if things went wrong? Could Emery? I thought about the morning evaluation, her drawings, her tiny voice saying, "Daddy takes me to school every day." If I didn't try, what kind of father would I be? I signed the digital form before I could talk myself out of it. The next few weeks were a blur of legal filings, interviews, character references, and home visits. My co-workers submitted letters about my stability in parenting. My sister flew in from Oregon to speak on my behalf. Even Rowan's teacher offered to testify, saying she'd never seen a man more devoted to his children, biologically his or not. Every day, Emery held my hand as we walked to school. And every day, I hoped it wouldn't be the last time. Things seemed stable. Until the morning I received a call from Marissa's lawyer. His voice was tense, formal. "Mr. Hale, your ex-wife wishes to contest the adoption." A cold wave washed through me. She was still going to fight me, even after the airport, even after almost losing everything. "She claims," the lawyer continued, "that you manipulated the children, and that she was emotionally unstable because of your actions." "My actions," I repeated. "She tried to abduct our daughter." "Yes," he said stiffly, "but she intends to argue diminished responsibility and claim you pushed her to it." I sat down, the room spinning. If she contested the adoption, everything could fall apart, all the progress, all the hearings, all the hope that had finally begun to feel real. But the lawyer wasn't finished. "One more thing," he said. "Marissa has filed a motion to regain partial custody." I closed my eyes, dread settling in my stomach like lead. This wasn't over, not even close, and the next battle would be the hardest one yet. The courtroom was colder than I expected, though the autumn sun outside tried to warm the marble steps. I gripped the edges of my suit jacket, feeling the slight tremor of nerves I hadn't felt in years. Today wasn't just another hearing. This was the culmination of months of fights, legal maneuvers, and emotional warfare. The adoption petition for Emery hung in the balance, and Marissa's final push to contest it made my chest tighten with both dread and determination. The judge entered, her robe flowing and authoritative. Her eyes scanned the room, but when they rested on me, there was no judgment, only the gravity of the law weighing in. Marissa sat across the room, hair disheveled, her face pale and anxious. She tried to look defiant, but I could see the cracks in her facade. The lawyer representing Marissa started first, his tone calm but insistent. "Your Honor, my client has faced extreme emotional duress," he said. "She acknowledges her mistakes, but she believes that terminating her parental rights to Emery entirely is neither necessary nor fair. We ask that she retain partial visitation while the adoption is considered." I clenched my fists under the table. Partial visitation? After everything? After the airport incident? After months of lies and deceit? I wanted to shout, to scream that this woman had endangered my child, but I reminded myself of one thing: patience. Every move had to be calculated. My lawyer stood, adjusting his tie. "Your Honor,
Mr. Hale has provided unwavering stability, support, and love to Emery since the day he learned she was not biologically his. Despite the trauma inflicted by Ms. Marissa's actions, Mr. Hale has maintained a nurturing and consistent environment. Granting this adoption is in the child's best interest, emotionally, mentally, and legally. The judge nodded, reviewing the evidence once more. She held a stack of files, photos, character references, evaluations, and the transcripts from Ms. Rayburn's visits. Each one reinforced the truth. Emery thrived under my care. She loved me as her father, and I was fully prepared to provide a permanent, stable home. Then the moment came. The judge addressed Emery directly. The room went silent. The small girl perched in her chair, legs swinging, clutching her stuffed fox tightly. "Emery," the judge said gently, "do you understand that today we are discussing who will care for you as you grow? You may choose, if you want, who you consider your father." Emery's lips trembled, but her voice was steady. I want Daddy to be my dad. All the time. Not anyone else." My heart stopped for a moment. Relief, joy, and an almost overwhelming wave of protection surged through me. I wanted to scoop her up, hold her tight, and never let go. But I stayed in my chair, keeping my composure. The judge smiled softly, a flicker of warmth breaking through the courtroom's formality. "The court acknowledges your choice, Emery," she said. "Based on all the evidence, and considering your expressed wishes, the adoption by Mr. Daniel Cross is granted. Ms. Marissa will have no visitation rights until a future date deemed appropriate by the court." The gavel fell. The sound echoed in my chest. Victory, yes, but tempered with exhaustion. All the lies, all the betrayals, all the sleepless nights and quiet heartbreaks, they had led to this moment. After the hearing, I took Emery and Rowan to the park. The autumn leaves swirled around us as they ran ahead, laughing and shouting. For a moment, the world seemed lighter. Emery looked up at me, her small hand slipping into mine. "Daddy," she said softly, "does this mean we're forever?" "Yes," I said, my voice thick. "Forever, baby. Nothing will ever take that away from us." The weeks that followed were not without challenges. Marissa's disappearance left a strange silence in the house. Occasionally, I would receive letters, apologies, attempts to negotiate, even one threatening lawsuit that I ignored. But I had learned long ago that her words carried no weight over my children's lives. I continued therapy, not because I needed permission to feel or process, but because I wanted to be the best father possible. I learned to cook simple meals, to help with homework without frustration, to listen without judgment, to love without hesitation. Rowan's laughter became my anchor, Emery's trust my compass. One evening, as I tucked Emery into bed, she whispered, "Daddy, do you think Mom will ever come back?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Your mother might try, but right now, we are safe. And I promise, no one will ever take care of you or Rowan the way I do. I will always be here." She snuggled into her blankets, eyes closing, and I watched the soft rise and fall of her chest. This was my victory. Not the legal papers, not the court's decree, but the quiet knowledge that I had given my children safety, love, and a father who chose them every day. Months passed. Marissa's attempts at contact faded. Her license was revoked, and the authorities pursued her financial irregularities, leaving her isolated and powerless. For me, life wasn't perfect, but it was real, grounded in the truths I had fought to protect. One morning, I found Rowan's school drawing on the fridge, a family portrait with me, Emery, and him smiling under a bright sun. Crayon strokes uneven, colors overlapping, but full of love.
I stood for a long time, taking it in. Sometimes life breaks you down to pieces. Sometimes the betrayal cuts so deep, it seems impossible to recover. But in the end, the strongest part of any family isn't the blood running through veins. It's the choices we make to protect, to nurture, and to love, even in the aftermath of deceit. I folded the crayon drawing into my chest and whispered, "We made it, kids. We really made it." And for the first time in years, I believed it.